Hi, this is John Lee from Dashboard Dudes, and there are two things that I love, data and cooking. That's actually it. I got nothing else going for me. But we are going to talk about cooking right now. So I'm going to show you how to make a baguette. This is a big win for me. A lot of people love a fresh baguette out of the oven. It's amazing. And maybe you will get to experience love, and then you can tell me what it feels like after someone tries this baguette. Okay, cool. So, a baguette, a couple of things to know. It's not really difficult, but it's going to take a lot of time, and it's not a lot of tedious time. You're just going to have to do a lot of waiting. We're going to need the yeast to do its job, to do a lot of things. So let's first talk about, just like we do with data, I need to go get my ingredients. So here's what you're going to need. You're going to need some flour. I like to use King Arthur bread flour. It's very good, but if you can get bread flour, better than all-purpose flour. You're going to need some instant yeast. I use this Fleischmann's one. I like it. So you can get some instant yeast for yourself. And that's really kind of it that you're going to need. A little bit of salt later, but we'll get into that later. But that's really it for the ingredients. Now the equipment, what we're going to need is, if you have one of these, I use this. It's a little baguette pan. It allows me to separate it. That's perfect. If you do not have one, we have a little trick that I learned to do. Parchment paper. We're going to basically take a sheet of parchment paper, fold it. That's where my origami skills come into play. Fold it, use a stapler, connect it, and we are going to make the same partitions to separate our loaves in the baguette. Okay, so you're going to need that. Maybe about an inch deep cookie sheet or another pan. We're going to need that. We're going to put water in that and then put it in the oven, and that's going to help keep the baguette, the steam, keep it nice and moist so it's not too dry. You're going to need a couple bowls, one big bowl like this that has a lid, and you need to get a lid that's pretty tight on it, and I actually will put a weight on top of this. This is because when we put the dough in, the gas is going to want to make the lid pop off. So if we put something on top of it, but we have a nice secure lid like that, that's going to help us out. And then we're going to need another type of Tupperware-ish little jar with a lid too. Okay, so that's our equipment. We have gathered our ingredients, just like we talk about data. We get our ingredients. Now it's time to go into the ETL, or the cooking part that we're going to do. Okay, this part, it's honestly going to be so fast. You're going to be like, what? I can't believe it was that easy. So we are going to take our instant yeast. And here I have a measuring spoon of a 1/4 teaspoon. We don't even need that much. We honestly need 1/16 of a teaspoon of yeast. We don't need a lot at all. So I'm taking a super small amount, if you can see that. Pop it in there. Cool, that's about it. And then I'm going to need a cup. I'm gonna get my measuring cup. I'm going to need a cup of bread flour. Yep, and there we go. Cool. I'm gonna pour that in. Okay, awesome. And now we're almost done. I'm gonna need a cup of warm water, not too hot, just warm water. We're just going to pour the water into the dry mixture that we have going over here. I'm done with this measuring cup. For me, I like to get something wooden to stir it instead of metal. I find that it doesn't stick as much. So I'm going to use a wooden chopstick. If you don't have a chopstick, well, probably pretty different people. But I'm just going to stir it. Cool. So that looks good to me. All right, scrape off my edges. Huzzah! And now I'm going to just seal this up. Perfecto. Cool. And that's it. We're going to let this sit for 12 hours. We're just going to let it chill out. Okay? And you don't want to put it in a cold place. Don't put it in a refrigerator. Just leave it on a table, whatever. We're going to let it sit for 12 hours. So what's going to happen right now is the yeast is going to make all that burping happen, nice and slow. And there it is. And we will come back to it, okay? Okay, well, I guess I'll talk to you later in 12 hours. Bye. Okay, so now as you can see, our starter became very bubbly. and that is what we were looking for, right? We want the yeast to expand. Okay, so now we're going to do a couple things. I'm going to take my starter, I'm going to add it to my mixer. So now I am going to also add in my red flour again. I'm going to add 3 cups of that. 1. Okay, cool. We have our bread flour added. So then I'm going to get my other measuring cup and I'm going to add in an extra ½ cup. So we have 3½ cups flour total. All right, so next thing I need my yeast again. 1.5 teaspoons is what we're looking for here. Okay, cool. Boom, boom. And then we need salt. 2 teaspoons of salt. And there we go. So now I'm going to take my dough attachment right here. I'm going to connect it, close it. So I have all my dry ingredients now, and we're going to let it go. Okay, so we have all our dry ingredients going, and I'm going to do one more thing. I have a cup of warm water, and I'm not going to just dunk it in. I'm going to slowly just pour a little bit. Again, what that's doing is that is activating the instant yeast. Once they get wet, they're going to start burping for us. All right, you see what's happening? It's forming into one clump, one kind of ball. So that's what we want. And yep, I think it's good. After it did that, I'm going to open it back up. Beautiful. I'm going to remove my dough hook. Okay, and now I'm going to put it into our container. But I'm going to lightly coat this container with some oil. And what you want to use is you really want to use a neutral oil, like a canola oil or a grapeseed oil. I like to use grapeseed oil more than cool. And I'm just going to put it in there, move it up a little bit, just make sure everything is kind of there. This is really so it doesn't stick, right? And we're good. I'm going to cover it. And what I do, you want to burp it, get the air out of it. I'm going to actually put a weight on top of this because I don't want it to expand and cause the top to pop off. All right, we're going to do that, and we're going to let it sit for another, it's going to be like 3 hours. All right, it's been about 3 hours. Let's go take a look. All right, beautiful. This is what I wanted. We gave some time and we allowed the yeast to burp and to make the flour rise. All right, so just like data stuff, we allowed some time to go by for maybe an ETL to kick off to then go into another ETL. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my surface area. I'd like to use one of these silicone mats. I really use this a lot for cooking and for baking. But we're going to put some flour down right here, my bread flour, and I'm going to take my mixture and scoop it out. And so now I have my dough on my floured surface. Cool? So we're going to knead it now. And the kneading piece, I hate being needy, but with kneading, what we're going to do here, the whole point is we're making layers essentially. We're making layers so that the flour and the yeast interact again, getting it agitated so that it will rise again. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold in half, turn sideways, cool, push down, fold in half, turn 90 degrees, push down. And we're just going to do that again and again and again. So after we've kneaded it for a little bit, and I've folded, I'm taking my fingers and I'm pushing the bottom parts inside. I'm trying to make it into a ball, like this. Yeah, just like that. Cool. There we go. Got a nice ball of dough. I push on it, it springs back. we are good to go. And I'm going to, again, put it into my container, do the same exact thing, cover it, put a weight on it, and we're gonna wait for another 90 minutes, okay? All right, let's go take a look. Oh yeah, that is what I want. Look at this. In a couple of hours, this thing has evolved. Awesome. So just like our data, we have turned it into, taken some data, turned it into something else that we needed by a different type of chart maybe, or doing some type of math or an ETL even. We changed it into a new product that we need to use. A whole new ingredient. Okay, cool. We are done with this. We do not need this anymore. So you can see we have this big dough that has risen very well. So now I'm going to dust my surface again. And you know what? Another analogy of having data and cooking is having the right tool. So you can see here I use this silicone mat to help me with baking. I like it better than working on my kitchen counter surface because it's just easier to clean up, honestly. And if I had to do it the other way, it'd be so much more. But okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna divide this into two different halves, okay? I am going to, you can use anything, honestly. I have one of these partitions to help me out here, and I actually like to cut it lengthwise. You're gonna see why, but you can measure it if you really want to measure it and make sure that they're half. I am not going to. I don't really care. I'm just going to do it this way. Okay, cool. Cut. Okay, awesome. So now we're gonna be very generous with our dusting, putting the flour in. Okay, cool. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna actually let gravity help me. So I'm not pulling and stretching so much. I'm just squeezing a little bit. And as I'm doing that, I'm using this technique to push more of the flour down because I want it to be fairly uniform. I don't want it to be one large end and the middle is nothing, you know. You want it to be fairly cylindrical. Cool, just like that. See, and I'm moving that around a bit. You can roll it, move that on the side. Rolling it a bit to help it form and shape and to even out. Yeah, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be good. Okay, cool. And then when I'm done with it, I'm going to do this. I'm gonna do a couple spins, a couple twists. There we go. And I'm going to spin it out a bit more. Now that we've done that, we're gonna let it rest. I'm gonna cover it and we are gonna let it rest for maybe 30 minutes. In the meantime, we got something else to do. So now what we're gonna do, we're gonna fill this thing with water. We're gonna fill it pretty deep because what we want is we want the steam to help us with the baguette so it's not too dry, okay? So for this one, I did about 6 cups of water, okay? So now I'm going to push it back in. Okay, awesome. Close it, and I'm gonna set this to be very hot. We're gonna say 450. All right, so while we're waiting for our oven to preheat and while we're waiting for our baguette to rest and to rise, we are going to prepare where it's gonna sit, where it's gonna land. And I have one of these. I have these baguette trays right here, and you can see it's perforated. It's nice because it allows the steam to come in and help cook it, and it's great. If you are interested in making baguettes regularly, this is gonna be amazing, but you don't need it. I have a hack that I developed as a plan B, and here's what you are going to need. You're going to need some parchment paper, a baking sheet, a cookie sheet, and a stapler. Who has a stapler in their kitchen? I do, because this is why I use it, and I've done this before. Okay, so here's what we are going to do. We are going to pull out some parchment paper, and I want it about 2 times the width of the cookie sheet-ish. Cool, that's good enough with me. And some scissors. Okay. We're basically going to do some origami right now. As a kid, I loved origami, and we are going to make some walls. I took one end and I folded it away. I folded it away from me. Cool. Then I took that, folded it down back to me. Cool. Then I folded it, another one back to me again, folded it away from me, and last folded it back to me. Again, I'm going to take my stapler and I'm going to staple the bottom and the top walls of it. Cool, so I stapled those two spots, the bottom and the top. And I'm going to do it again right here. And then I have this little wall right here. Cool, this little garage for my baguette car. That's for one baguette, but we have two baguettes. So I'm gonna fold it again. So what I did, right here by excess, folded it down. Cool. One more time, down. Run that through, beautiful. And then I'm just gonna fold this top back down. Oops. And there we go. And I'm gonna staple it. This might be the most, out of everything else, this is probably the most challenging for some of you watching, but pause the video, rewind it, do it again, not a big deal. I have one section and another section for where I'm going to put my baguette. Okay, so that's our makeshift way. So I'm going to take my baguette, I'm going to land one into my parchment paper structure. I'm going to land another one right there into my parchment paper structure. Cool? I'm just going to cover it. You know what? Since I have the equipment, I'm going to use it. I'm going to use my baguette pan because it's just better. Or maybe this is a great time for experiment. Yeah, let's experiment. Let's put one on the baguette pan, one on the parchment paper. I never do this. I love experiment. Anyway, we're going to get back to it. I'm just going to cover both of these. We're going to chill out. We're going to come back when the oven is preheated. So what you're going to need next, you're going to need a little knife and you're going to need a squirt bottle if you happen to have a squirt bottle. If you don't have one, I'm going to show you another trick. All right, oven is almost ready to go. So, all right, we have our baguettes. My timer went off for my oven. It's ready to go. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a little bit of another spin, another swirl. This one looks great already. Okay, cool. And I'm going to take a little knife right here. And what we're going to do is we're going to create little vents. And those vents will help steam escape so it doesn't just kind of destroy itself. So you could do whatever you want, right? This is the one, have some fun. I usually like to go diagonal. So I'm going to make a cut, you know, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, 5 members. So 5 cuts. That's how we're going to do it. You could do something like this too. I can go down the middle. And now I'm going to take my water bottle and I'm just going to spray it all around. This is what's going to cause it to look brown. So you kind of want to try to cover the outside of it. Cool. Get your hands wet and you're just going to Emerald Lagasse bam it with water all over the place. Last thing, we're going to take a smidge more of bread flour and dust it. With the oven, by the way, be careful when you open it right away because a lot of steam is going to hit you in the face. So open it, let some steam out, and then you can go a little bit longer, okay? All right, I'm just going to put these both in, and then we'll see what happens. All right, so you could see I have our parchment one, I have our regular one with my baguette pan. We are going to close this, not open it, again, for 27 minutes. Oh yeah, look at that, look at that. All right, check it out. We have our baguettes. A little bit burnt. I think I left it in the oven a little too long, but looks good, looks really good. Look at that. Okay, let's go cut it open. right, looks great. If you watch the other video, I made some homemade butter. So homemade butter, homemade bread. Man, it is just melting right on it, and that's what you want. Yeah, good crunch on the outside, soft and warm on the inside. Man, just like data, we took some flour, we took some yeast, some salt, some water, and we put it through a long process. It wasn't super tedious, just long to wait. But the end result, you got this beautiful baguette. Maybe I should go from dashboard dudes to baguette bros. Yeah, dashboard dudes is discontinued. Just doubling down on baguettes. All right, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks.